Hey, hi everyone, this is Nitish Khagwal, and today I'm going to talk about few things that any designer should know if they want to create their interactions with SwiftUI. And I know we are living in the age where we have advent of LLMs available like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini. So yeah, you can use any one of them to vibe code the SwiftUI interactions, but I think still the underlying foundation and principles are equally important. If you don't know the basics, you won't be able to do a great job with these LLMs. So if you are thinking to start your prototyping journey with SwiftUI, so this is the place where ideally you should start. So I've just created a new macOS app, and the name of this app is Play App, and this is the default file that you get. And we have like a body over here which has content view, and content view exists as a view inside this content view file. So you can rename it to whatever you want, but the condition is if you change it here, because this is the master view, you have to just update the name here as well, because this is the instance of that master view. Now going back to this file, first of all, I'll increase the size of the frame. So let me use 480 for both width and height. So you can see the preview got updated over here. And for time being, I'll just remove everything within the body. So what we are going to do next is we'll start with the shape. So SwiftUI offers you a couple of different shapes. So first, let's go with rectangle. The moment you put the rectangle shape, it'll try to fill up the entire available canvas. So it is just trying to adapt to left to right and top to bottom. Now, if I want to define the size to this particular shape, I have to use the frame modifier. And always remember the way SwiftUI work. Anytime you put a dot and you write something, it is a modifier. So everything that you see here is a modifier. You can see M and it stands for modifier. So over here, I'm going to use the frame modifier, and you can just reflect back like we just use the frame modifier here. And frame modifier primarily takes two parameters, width and height, and alternatively there are a bunch of different parameters like min width, max width, and everyone serve their own use case. So for now, I'm going to use width. So let's say I'm going to use width as 100 and height as 100. This is a rectangle, but we are designers. We don't like edged rectangles. We love the rounded rectangles. So yeah, we do have that as a shape too. So I'll choose this one, like rounded rectangle with corner radius and style. And it's not like you really have to choose from here. You can manually type it, and you can pass both of these parameters, like what is the corner radius? I want it to be like 16, and the style should be continuous. So continuous is something that we as designer say square circle. So there we go. So this is like the one, and we also want the width and height. So I'll say width is 100, height is again 100. And I would like to remove this. I'll just keep the rounded rectangle one. And similarly, I can go ahead, I can create a circle. I'll just copy the same modifier so that I have the same size. Now you can see the layout is kind of weird. What I want is they should go left to right. So for that, the way we have auto layout in Figma with the horizontal direction, we have HStack. This is how it looks. And now I can put both of these shapes inside this HStack. There we go. Now in Figma, in auto layout, we have the spacing. So I can again pass a parameter over here, which is spacing. And I would say, hey, make it like 16. I'll get rid of this one. So this looks cool. If I want to give some fill to this rectangle, or now it is square, I can just put one modifier, which is fill, and I can put like a pink color, and then for circle I'll put purple, And yeah, already looking good. Now, see, we have done the layouting. Like we have created a HStack. Inside HStack, I have two shapes. One looks pink, another one is purple. One is like square, another one is circle. Now, what I want to do is, if I tap on any of these shapes, they should just scale up, right? To do that, there's one way I can do. I can say var is large because I want to scale it. Okay, let's call it is scaled. Okay, and we have to tell SwiftUI that this particular variable that we have defined as is scaled is a Boolean value which either could be false or true. Okay, so currently I have just set false. That's it. And one more thing, I have called this thing as a variable, but SwiftUI is very particular about the nomenclature, though it is variable, but because this variable is placed inside the struct, we are going to call this as property. And this thing is a property type because this is the type which defines what kind of a property is this. So this is a property whose property type is bool, which is currently set to false. And now over here, I'm going to say like dot scale effect, and scale effect is currently 1. And obviously if I just increase it to 1.2, the size will be larger, even more larger if I increase that value. Same goes for the circle. If I just place this over here, it will increase the size. Now, what I want to do is, okay, rather than using the scale effect, I'll do one thing alternatively. If I increase the size of this one, just see the difference, what happens. Rather than the scale effect, I can comment it out by putting these slashes. So just look at this. Now if I increase the size, it also shifts the layout, which is actually a good thing, right? So rather than using the scale effect, I'll use the size. Okay. And if you have seen the previous video of mine, it was, I explained like how the ternary operator works. So over here, I'm going to put is scaled. So basically I'm saying like if is scaled is true, use this value. If is scaled is false, use this value. Makes sense. Now, same goes for height. In fact, if I just remove height, I think still it should work. No, it won't. It will try to fill up the entire available space. So let's copy the same code. So it's like 140 and 100. So if is scaled is false, it will use 100. If is scaled is true, it will be 140. I'll just copy the same code to the circle. There we go. Now just look at this. If I do true, the size has increased, right? And if it is false, the size is smaller. So somehow we just need to toggle this value and this animation or this change will reflect. So to do that, I'm going to put one gesture over here, which is onTapGesture. And over here, I'll say if is scaled, I can put conditionals like if is scaled is true, I want to set this to false. Else, obviously the is scaled will be false, so I'll say set is scaled to true. So it'll just toggle between these two values. And when we do that, SwiftUI tell us I really can't do that because this thing is not a state. So if there is anything which is supposed to be updated, that should be a state. So you have to use a property wrapper called state, and this is where the real magic starts. Now, if I tap on the HStack, it will toggle between the true and false state, and this is how we expected the output to be. I generally don't like this code, so what I generally do is I use a built-in modifier which is toggle. So the code is really crisp, but the underlying concept is obviously if and else. So now if I tap on this, you can see what's happening here, right? I also want to animate this, and there's another thing that I want to do. Like, I really don't like if I click on this HStack and this entire thing is scaling. What I alternatively want, like if I tap on this square, it should scale up. If I tap on this circle, it should scale up and then scale down. So I'll also talk about another concept. Like in design, in Figma, we have components. Like we create one component and then we reuse it over and over again. So I can just do the same thing here. So I'll define my own struct now and I'll call it like shape. Okay, it may conflict with the default nomenclature, so I want to play safe and I'll call it like cool shape. And the type of this struct is view, and obviously we are going to leverage the boilerplate provided by the Xcode. And over here, I'm going to put this code, the rounded rectangle one. And obviously, we don't have is scaled available in this particular view. So I'm also going to steal this one from here and I'll move it here. A lot of errors, we'll fix it one after another. So now we are kind of sorted, but also I want to move this onTapGesture on this rectangle itself, right? And now I can use this, and obviously I'll have two different struct for both the shapes. So I'll call it cool rectangle, or it's more of a square. So let's call it a square. So cool square, I'll come here, put cool square here, and I'll do exact same thing, but for the circle. So I'll say, hey, cool circle is scale, everything is good. The only part which is supposed to change is this. So let's replace this. So now I have cool circle, I have cool square, and I'll just go back here. I'll clean up my code and I'll put cool circle, and we don't need this anymore. So now we have just refactored our code. We have two separate views. Something has gone wrong, or maybe it's Xcode crashing. Oh yeah, it was Xcode. So everything is cool. Now if I tap on this one scales up, or technically it's changing the width and height, right? And when I do this, this one is also doing the same. One more quick thing, like we have used the corner radius, right? It was 16, but when the size is increasing, we are again keeping it same. So rather than that, let's say if it is bigger, use 24. If it is a smaller one, just use 16. So that should be good. Yeah, that looks far better. So now you can see like both of these are working independently. I could have merged both of these, might have used conditional to separate between these shapes, but I just want to keep things as simple as I could so that you can understand the underlying concept of how the shapes work, how the HStack works, how the TapGesture works, and now the concept that I love the most within the SwiftUI. So I want to animate this, and to animate the same, I just need to put withAnimation, closure, and now look at the magic. The moment I tap on this, it starts animating. And the underlying principle is withAnimation closure, try to compare the difference between the two states. Like what was the state of the view when the state was false, and how the view looks like when the state is true. And once it is able to figure out the changes, the difference in two different states, then it just animates every other possible value. So it just escalates the entire animation thing for us. So you can see, and now you also get a couple of different parameters. Like the default one is smooth. Like I really don't think there'll be any change because that's the default one. And inside smooth, we again get two parameters. First is duration. So I can say, hey, I want it to be 0.56 seconds, right? Or even I can use something like 1.5. It will be even more slower, right? But I think 0.56 is like a very, very decent value. We get another one, which is extra bounce. Now if I put it like 0.24, you can see it gets a little bouncy. I can even increase this value further if I want to underdamp it. So this is good, right? So it's more about the taste, and we'll talk about what these values should be when we talk about the interaction design principles in the future. So let's explore other different modifiers available within the withAnimation closure. So you can use Snappy, and most of my interaction design work that you might have seen on my website uses Snappy. So again, you get both of these parameters, like duration is 0.56. So now the animation is bit snappy, and I can put extra bounce. Again, it could be something like 0.32 and see. So I like this kind of animation, curve. You also get bouncy. You can use bouncy. I generally avoid this. Like this is like too much, but yeah, it is available. And obviously you have ease in, ease out, ease in, out along with the durations. So for now, I'll just stick to Snappy, and I'm going to copy the same code over here. So most of the work that you might have seen uses withAnimation modifier. Let me refresh it again. I'm pretty much sure my code is not broken. Something is wrong with Xcode. I'll keep refreshing unless it don't work. Okay, I'll press Command R to build this. Okay, build succeeded. So it was definitely Xcode. So yeah, look at this. Look at this. That's why I really love prototyping with SwiftUI. I mean, I'm not sure if there is any other technology that empowers you the way SwiftUI does. I mean, frame of motion is there, but it is for web. I get it. But if you really want to prototype natively, this level of performance, this level of craft, SwiftUI is my love. So let's talk about another thing, which is transitions. So currently what we have done is both of the things are visible, and once we tap or we interact with one of the views or the components, they behave, right, the way we have defined. But we do have another thing, which is transition. So transition is something that comes into play once a view enters or leaves the view hierarchy. So let's try to understand what exactly I mean what do I mean when I say the view hierarchy. So we do have like HStack, and let's keep it that way. Over here, I'll define a new variable, and I'll just stick to the bool for now. So I'll say like is circle visible. By the way, like this is not a good way to name your properties, but we are just getting started. So I'm using these names so that you can understand better, you can preserve the context better. So over here, I'll say is circle visible bool, and I'll call it by default false. Or say, okay, let's say it's true. Okay, it'll make things a bit easier. And over here, I don't think we don't need HStack anymore. And I'll say if is circle is visible, if it is true, show this code, like cool circle code, like not the code, but the view, the cool circle view. And if not, if this condition is false, just show the cool square. Now let's try refreshing. And by the way, I'm pressing Command Option P to refresh the preview, right? So currently cool circle is there and cool square is not visible, but if I just set false over here, it'll toggle the values. So ideally in this situation, the cool square should appear, which is like a pink square. Now over here, I'm going to put another button, and now because we want two things, like one at the top, another at the bottom, we have to use the VStack. And again, I'll just put this code, and over here I'll put a very simple button, and this is like button action label. This is where we'll define the action, and for the label I'll just use like I'll call it toggle, and this has to be a text, so I have to use a text view. The way we had like rounded rectangle, this time we are going to use text, and I'm going to put toggle over here. And I think this looks good, but I just want to change the font, so I'll use the system font with size 24 points, width is somewhere medium, and the design should be rounded. Okay, that's like too much. 16 should work better. This should stay regular. And for the styling of the button, we should my bad, button style is the modifier, and all this is available at Apple's documentation, so you can go and read as much as you want. So I want bordered prominent, yeah, and the control size should be extra large. And don't ask me like when you put the extra large, why the button becomes a pill. That's how the people at Apple have decided that thing to behave. I really want it to be color neutral, so I'll put tint as black. So yeah, I'm good with this. I want more spacing between the square and that toggle button, so I'll put spacing over here, and again it's like a parameter that is available within the VStack. So I know you already know the drill, how SwiftUI in and out works. Like there are views, then there are parameters, and then there are modifiers, and there are conditionals too. And most of the time as a designer, when you are prototyping, you'll be juggling across these three to five things. This is like, if you know the Pareto principle, it says 80% of the result come from 20% of the efforts. So this is that 20%. Now over here, what I want to do is, along with animation, I want to change, okay, let's not overjump. So over here, what I want to do, I want to say, once I tap this button, just toggle these values. And again, why an error? Because this was not a state, but now it is a state, so it will toggle. So you can see these two things are working fine, but they're not animating. Why they are not animating? Because this particular thing is not wrapped around with animation. And just to keep my animation consistent, I'll use the exact same value. And I'll get rid of this one. And there we go. So now you can see there is some animation, but this some animation is not looking good to me. And now if you compare the two animations that we have done so far, once I tap on this, it increases in width and height, which gives us an illusion of scaling up and scaling down. And if I toggle this, again, it is giving us the same illusion of getting bigger and smaller. But once I toggle, it's just fading in and fading out, because this particular view, and also this view, is either leaving the view hierarchy or entering within the view hierarchy. And SwiftUI is actually using the default transition for both of these views. And now I want to use some predefined transitions which are available. We can even create our own transition, but I won't talk about that today. So let's try to use the default transitions which are available. So over here, I've just used the transition modifier and I'll use opacity. I'll copy the same code over here for now, and you'll observe nothing has changed because opacity is the default transition available. If now I use blurReplace, just see what happens. Maybe one of the most gorgeous transitions. I love this. If you look at my work, most of the interaction might have some glimpses of this particular transition, and I love this. This is good. Now let's look at some other transitions too. I'll format it a bit. So over here, I'll say I want to use scale. That's it. Let's see what happens. Okay. So this one is using the blurReplace. This one is using a scale. Look at this. Look at this. I can just paste the same code, by the way. So this is how the animation looks, and this is all default. We have not created anything custom yet. We can, but we have not done that yet. I can also chain it with other transition. So I want to use combined with opacity. Now look at this. Okay, I should do both the way, else it will get hard for our brain to comprehend. So now it is using like both the scale as well as the opacity. Okay, and in fact we can do one thing. We can just comment this for a moment and we can just say okay, right? I can use even other values, right? Like I can use slide. Let's see how it works. That's how it works. Again, I can chain it with opacity. Okay, that's kind of good. And you can similarly explore like n number of transition, like we have move, we have offset, we have push, and you can just try all of them one after another. And all of these have like different use cases to serve. But at the same time, there is something I also want to highlight. Like we do have asymmetric transitions. So it has two things, like insertion and then removal. Insertion means when this particular view is entering within the view hierarchy, I want this. So I'll say when this thing is entering, I'll say I want scale, and it should be chained with opacity. And once this thing is leaving the view hierarchy, I just want opacity. It should not scale down. Look at this. It's scaled up and along with the opacity. But once I did the toggle, it just faded away. And I can now toggle this thing back, and I'll use the same transition here. Now look at this. This is better, right? Because whatsoever is leaving the view hierarchy should not be the prime focus as per the principles of interaction design. So this looks good. And you can now think of endless possibilities just with the default transitions. Like one thing we can think of, if something is entering the view hierarchy, it should come from the like minus of x-axis, and once it is leaving, it should go to the right side or the plus side of the x-axis. So let's try doing that. I'll be using offset. You can also use slide, but offset gives you more of a control. So insertion should happen on x-axis from minus 200 points. What did I do wrong? Some parenthesis, yeah. Offset x is minus 200, and I'll just keep copying the same code. And obviously this is the worst way of doing it. Like we can define variables if we really want the same transition, but I really don't want to get into that complex stuff right now. So just copying and pasting for your ease. So I'll just copy this entire A. Okay, let's copy this entire transition. Okay, and removal is opacity for now. So look at this. Look at this. And we just need to do this now. Offset, we want like X 200, and I think we are done. We'll definitely change it with opacity once we are sure what. Okay, that's good. That's good. Now we just need to change it with the opacity. So just put combine with opacity. Okay. Combine with opacity, and yeah, I think 200 is like too much. So let's stick to 100 for both of these. Let's copy this entire transition code, paste it here, and I think we have created something good. Yeah, let's make it 160. That would be better. And also, I want to make it more bouncy. So I'll increase this value and also increase the duration. Let's see how it looks now. Okay, that's like too much bouncy. Yeah. So I think we have done a good job. And let's try previewing what we have created so far. So I've pressed Command R to run the build. And if I tap on this, it increases. If I tap on this, this decreases. I tap on toggle, the circle shows up. If I tap on this, it increases. If I tap on this, it again decreases. And if I toggle, I see this square. So that's what SwiftUI can do for you if you really want to prototype beyond the limits. So I hope you find this helpful. Have a great day. Bye-bye.